Everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the 6-game NBA slate for Wednesday, starting at 7:30. So let's get started. Looking back at yesterday's slate, Eric Spoelstra did a lot of people dirty. Talk about people getting popped a lot with Greg Popovich and his sometimes his uncertainties with his rotation, but we really got done dirty by Spoelstra yesterday, playing Dragic 9 minutes in the first quarter and then not playing him again. Yeah, it was because they were down big and they have another game today. But that was just super frustrating, and hope that never happens again because I don't want to go through that again. And then the Pelicans got blown out, so Ingram wasn't able to hit value, and that was a guy that I did like on DraftKings. He was solid in the minutes that he did play, but getting blown out by like 30 points is gonna kill you. So we go on to today's slate. There's a lot to like on DraftKings based on pricing. We'll kind of go game by game and discuss. So let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. You guys got yesterday's video over 300 likes. That's been a first time in a while, so I really appreciate that. Appreciate all the support. We are closing in on about 12,000 subscribers, so thank you guys for all the support, and let's have a very big night today. So 6 games, starting at 7:30. We'll start off with the first game. You have Memphis and Boston Celtics. Grizzlies super banged up. Going to be missing John Morant for a few weeks. Celtics still without Kemba Walker. Grizzlies also without DeAnthony Melton. And then the Celtics could be without, and the Grizzlies, of course, are still without Jaren Jackson Jr., but the Celtics could be without Tristan Thompson, who's been on a minutes limit to start the season, and now it's their first back-to-back situation. So if he's out, then you're going to get good minutes for Daniel Tice at 4K. I think he would look appealing. And you could look to Robert Williams, but I like Tice more. So keep an eye on Tristan Thompson. Will probably get news this afternoon if he's going to play or not. But looking at this game, I like the Grizzlies a little bit more than the Celtics just because there's a lot more value on that side. At point guard, you have Tyus Jones, $5,200, going to step in for John Morant. He is an okay player. He's not the greatest in terms of fantasy or point per minute production, but you're going to get probably 35, 36 minutes out of him. And he could definitely hit value at 5,200, but I think he's not my favorite player on the team. I think he's probably like the fourth option that I'm looking at. I'd rather take a shot on Dylan Brooks at just 6,200. His price tag has gone up, but he's already been a high usage guy with just how much he shoots. He's a good rebounder for a guard, and he's going to have to facilitate a little bit more. And he's going to be tough for them to take him off the floor. He does foul a lot. He got 6, 6, and 5 fouls in the first 3 games, but he's going to have to really control that because they need him out there. And I think he looks like a really nice play at 6,200. The other guy is Kyle Anderson at 6,000. He has been shooting a lot the last 2 games, 17 and 15, and that's going to have to continue today. He's been pretty good at getting fantasy points this season because the rebounding has been awesome, 7, 14, and 10, and that's been because he's been playing a lot of power forward without Jaren Jackson Jr. to start the season, so there's a lot of rebounds to be had there. And I think at 6K, I feel like he'll be able to hit you value just playing like 36, 37 minutes. He's been averaging over a point per minute fantasy-wise this season, and I think it's another spot where we will be able to do that just without John Morant and how much usage John Morant gets on a nightly basis. And then the third option that I like is Grayson Allen at just 36. I like Allen a little bit more than Tyus Jones just based on the salary, like 3,600 shooting guard starting, and you're going to see him probably get you like 28 to 32 minutes depending on how he's playing. He's definitely cheap enough that where if he ends up hitting some of his shots that he's been missing, he'll be able to be one of the better value plays on the slate. And then the last option is Valanciunas. He's 77 against a Boston frontcourt that is a little bit undersized. They have been starting Thompson and Tice to kind of make up for that. But if Thompson is out tonight for rest, then he'll go back to being matched up against Tice, who Valanciunas will definitely have the advantage over. He's 77, so he's not like super cheap. He's probably like maybe the fourth option that I'm looking at. Maybe I'll play him over. I mean, I like him a little bit more than Jones, so Jones might slide down to the fifth option on the team. But I think the Brooks and Anderson kind of give me exactly what I want on the Grizzlies. They're both affordable. They both are going to lead the team in like shot attempts, I would assume, and both are decent fantasy players, especially are going to have to be without John Morant out there. And then on the Boston side, you have Jeff Teague is down to 3,900. His minutes have kind of come down the last few because he's been playing awful, and Peyton Pritchard has been playing better. but I think he's worth a shot at 3,900 on a short slate. So he's a guy that I like. And then I like Tatum at 86. You're getting him at a nice price point, not not in the high 8K, not in the low 9K range that he's been. He's gonna shoot a bunch. He played a bunch of minutes. He played like 40 minutes yesterday. So we'll see if he should still not be on a limit. He's a young guy and everything like that, but hopefully he still has something left in the tank after yesterday's just long and tough game against the Pacers. And that's pretty much it. If Tice starts without Thompson, he would look appealing. So in the first game, I like Brooks Anderson the most on the Grizzlies side. I like Tatum and Jeff Teague as value plays, and Tice if Thompson's out. Moving on to the second game, we have the almost said the Falcons. We have the Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are going to get Kyrie Irving and Durant back in this one. Both were out for rest in the last game when we saw TLC go absolutely nuts and we saw LeVert go crazy. But now that they're both back on DraftKings, looking at the pricing, I like Durant a little bit more than Irving. Irving is 8,900 on a loaded point guard position, whereas you can get Durant at the forward spot at 84, save $500. He's been doing his thing in terms of shooting. He's been awesome to watch shoot the basketball. The peripherals have been down because he's playing next to DeAndre Jordan, who gets all the rebounds. Kyrie Irving gets the assists. So he's kind of been mainly a scorer, and then he just runs into the peripherals. But you're getting him he's no longer like playing low minutes. He's getting 36 last game. So you don't have to worry about him being limited or anything like that. It's against a fast-paced Hawks team. Expect Durant to have a very good game today. I like him a ton at that salary. Could definitely go to DeAndre Jordan as well. It's always tough playing a center where he splits his time with Jared Allen when there's two centers that kind of split the workload. It's always tough because you just don't get enough minutes most of the time unless one's in foul trouble. Like you're gonna need him to have a outlier game in like 25 to 28 minutes to kind of pay off. Last game, Allen just played 22 minutes, but we've easily seen them kind of flip-flop between the two depending on who's playing well. So I think there's some better options. I won't be targeting any of those centers. You get, on the Hawks side, you have Collins at 71. His minutes have been all over the place. A lot of it is due to foul trouble. 18 minutes in the first game where they blew out the Bulls, so that was somewhat expected. He also got into foul trouble that game. And the last two games, he also was in foul trouble. But he's been kind of checking out early in games in the second quarter. So I still think you would get him like 30 minutes, but I don't know how much more they'll play him than 30 minutes. So I think he looks a little bit better on FanDuel. He looks okay on DraftKings, but now that Capella is starting at center, there's less rebounds for Collins. And then you have Reddish. There's just a lot of guys that can go off, like Bogdanovich, Herter, Reddish, Hunter, Gallo if he plays. Like if Gallo's back, then it's going to be tough. You kind of nailed down any of the role pieces. So I would just stick to Trae Young, and then just kind of move on. Moving on to the third game, we have the same teams that killed us yesterday: Bucks and the Heat. Butler, hopefully plays, so I don't have to deal with Dragic. Oh, he's questionable. He hasn't been ruled out yet. He didn't play yesterday. We'll see. We'll get some sort of news this afternoon, hopefully. But looking at the Milwaukee side, you have Drew Holiday. Finally had a good game. Yesterday he had like 50, I think, fantasy points. Was really well. Shot the ball really well. He made like 4 threes, I think. Distributed the ball, had some steals. 64 for him. He looks like a solid option. And then the Heat is going to be dependent on Butler. I would go back to Hero. Even though I can't stand it, I will go back to Dragic at 55 if Butler is out. And maybe you can take a shot on like a Bradley if he starts, because Spoelstra was so mad at like Harkless that he didn't even start in the second half. So mad at Leonard either as well. So we'll see what the starting lineup is if Butler misses again. And this game is going to be just kind of waiting on injuries. You have Giannis at 10-8. I think I'd rather go Luka at 10-7. Luka is 10-7 here. Moving on to his game, he's 10-7 against the Charlotte Hornets. He probably would have had his first like monster game last time out if the Clippers were able to beat some sort of competent team in 26 minutes. He dropped 48 fantasy points. Would have had a triple-double if he played any of the fourth. He looks like a solid option. He's looks like the best spend-up on the slate. I like him more than Giannis. especially with Richardson questionable if he misses, and just a little bit more usage for Doncic. On the Dallas side, I'm a little bit more interested on the Charlotte side. On the Dallas side, is really Luka as the main piece. You can go with Finney Smith as a decent value play. Look at Kleber as a decent value play as well. And then the center situation, not really interested because Powell's not playing enough. Cauley Stein's not playing enough. So they're just kind of throwing a bunch of guys there. So Mavs are a pretty easy team because you know exactly where the production comes from. But Richardson being questionable, that will definitely be something to keep an eye on because we could get Trey Burke at 3,200, maybe jump into the starting lineup and be a decent value option. So keep an eye on that. Moving on to the Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs. Actually, we didn't touch on the Charlotte side, and that's a side that I do like here. They have been playing okay to start the season. The fantasy production has been solid for a few guys. It's been good for Graham. Rozier had that crazy game to start the season, and then he's kind of slowed down a little bit, but he's still been okay in terms of fantasy. But really, the main pieces that I like on the Hornets side is going to start with power forward / center, PJ Washington, who's $5,400. Put him in at center here. Just a really nice price tag for a guy that's going to play heavy minutes. Had a double-double last time out. Almost had a double-double against OKC. Without Zeller, there's a lot of minutes to be had in the front court, and they've been giving a lot to Bismack Biyombo. And now I think Washington is... They're still giving good minutes to Biyombo, but Washington, in this sort of spot, if he's matched up against, like, if they do play Kleber at the 5, he's a good matchup for Kleber. They both shoot threes, and I think looks to be like one of the better value plays on the Hornet side. So I definitely like him at that salary. And then you have Gordon Hayward at 7,200. Looks to be an expensive price tag, but it really isn't for all the usage that he has so far on the team. He's playing huge minutes, 35, 36. He has the ball in his hands a lot more than he did with the Celtics. And he looks to be a different player. He's shot the ball well, except for that game against OKC. Other 2 games, he shot the ball well from distance. He shot the ball well inside the 3-point line, getting you good peripheral numbers and rebounds and assists. I think he looks like a really good option today. Plug him in at power forward at 7,200 and feel good about it against a Dallas team. Expect this game to be somewhat close, and I think Hayward and Washington, 2 guys, are the 2 that I really like on this team. And then you could look to Graham at 66, or you could look to... I was going to say Bridges, but he's 49, so he's not really in play. Moving on to the second to last game, we have the Lakers and the Spurs. Spurs, there are some pieces to like on the Spurs today, and it always gives me an uneasy feeling when I say that, but DeJounte Murray is $6,100. That price tag doesn't make a lot of sense. He is been playing great without Derek White. White's already been ruled out for this one. So we're getting Murray playing 31, maybe 32 minutes if the game is close and he's playing well. Guy that has triple-double upside, a guy that just does a little bit of everything. Gives you such a high fantasy floor because he is not just scoring dependent. He gets you steals, gets you rebounds, assists, scores the ball decently, shoots a lot. So a lot to like with him. I think at 61, he looks to be my favorite Spur. And then the second guy that I love on the Spurs is DeMar DeRozan is sub 7K, 69 for DeRozan. That's why I'm still kind of contemplating if I'm going to pay up for like Luka, because I do like a lot of these guys in the 6 and 7K range with like Hayward, DeRozan, like even like the Grizzlies guys, Brooks and Anderson. So might just go kind of with the guys that are like good plays that are underpriced. Like DeRozan is way underpriced here. He has been playing great to start the season. A bad shooting game against the Pelicans, but still got you 10 assists. Like assist numbers are there, 10, 8, and 9. Handling the ball a lot, gets you rebounds, scores a lot on the team, plays huge minutes. There's so much to like here. If they're going to be in this game, it's going to be because of DeRozan and his scoring. Aldridge has looked really bad to start the season, and his minutes are not secure like DeRozan's are. Aldridge only played 20 minutes last game because you had Rudy Gay play well and you had Keldon Johnson play well. So Spurs are getting some good fantasy contributions from Murray, DeRozan. You have Johnson play well at 57. You could look to him if you wanted to. But I think people might just go off of the last game, and I would rather still take a shot on DeRozan, who's underpriced, and his Johnson's price tag is going up, and DeRozan's price tag is coming down. So I'd rather go with DeRozan, even though Johnson's been playing well. And then on the Lakers side, I'm not really interested in anybody because unless LeBron is out, but probably sure LeBron's going to play. He always plays. But Davis and LeBron are both under 10K. Davis has been okay to start the season, nothing crazy in terms of going off. So I don't think he is like a core piece, even though he would be most days when he's only 9,700. But I think like the Spurs guys look a little bit better. Doncic looks better. The Charlotte guys look better. So don't think I'll have that much interest on the Lakers team because assuming they're all healthy. And then the final game, we have the Portland Trail Blazers and the Los Angeles Clippers. See if Kawhi Leonard can give it a go today. He was ruled out yesterday against the Timberwolves. He might play in this one. It should be a much closer game than yesterday's would have been, and they probably were going to sit him out in one of the two games in a back-to-back anyways. But you have Georgia 85. Will only be a play if Kawhi happens to miss again. On the Portland side, McCollum has been lighting it up. 50 and 66 fantasy points. He's been playing better than Lillard to start the season. Lillard is 10K, so I'm not going there. I think I would take a shot on McCollum over Lillard. I take a shot on Nurkic at 67. I like that salary a lot. And then the guy that I like a lot on the Blazers, who's sub 5K, is Covington. He's getting them very good minutes, 38 and 38. He played a little bit more last game because Carmelo Anthony was not available with COVID, some protocol that he had to quarantine for a day or I don't know, something like that. But he wasn't available for the last game. So you saw Covington play 38, and then he played 38 in that overtime game against Houston. Hasn't shot the ball well at all to start his Blazers career, but he's a guy that still is a good fantasy player. He gets you rebounds, gets you steals, happens to have a good shooting game. We saw it in the bubble. He was playing well for the Houston team, and we were rostering him quite regularly. Price tag has come all the way down to 4,700. So take a long look at Covington today. I think it's a matter of time until his shot starts to fall. And then on the Clippers side, I'm not really looking at anybody because I'm assuming Kawhi's back, and then that's just kind of kill some of the other value plays that were viable the last couple days. So these 6 are the ones that look really good to me to start. I think Murray looks awesome. Brooks, Anderson, Hayward, Washington, DeRozan. So go ahead and jump over to Fanduel and touch on their pricing. All right, Fanduel has Luka priced up to 11.4, so I think it's a little bit tougher to get to Luka on Fanduel because you have Trae Young at like $1,600 cheaper. You have Kyrie at $2,000 cheaper. Lillard $2,200 cheaper. So just based on the other guys, I think Luka is going to be a fade for me on Fanduel. Murray's priced to 73. Still think he looks fine on Fanduel. He looks better on DraftKings, but he still looks playable on Fanduel. And then we have Drew Holiday at 64. I like him just because he's cheap. Finally had a good game, so hopefully he can build off of that against the same Miami team. And when you have like Tyus Jones at 58 and you have Holiday at 64, I kind of lean to Holiday, and given his like better numbers like over the course of his career, is a much better player than Jones. And then you have like LaMelo Ball, you can take a punt play on him. You have Jeff Teague, you can take a flyer on him. And then Burke, maybe if he starts and Richardson is out, that would be interesting. I think I'll lean to Holiday at 64. Just really cheap and won't need too much out of him. If this game is close, you'll see him play before. It's something that he hasn't done in like 3 out of the 4 games because they have been blowouts. And one of those games they ended up getting blown out by the Knicks, so that was something crazy in and of itself. But Holiday looks really good at 6,400 on FanDuel. Shooting guard DeRozan is priced up, so he's no longer a core piece like he is on DraftKings at 69. I will slide down a little bit to like Dylan Brooks, like him a lot at 67. You have Devontae Graham, who looks really appealing at 59. You can look at Marcus Smart at 59. And now that Irving and Durant are back, you don't have to worry about TLC ruining your day at 42. And then there's nobody that looks like a viable punt option besides Grayson Allen at 37. But I'm going with Dylan Brooks at 67. I expect like 40 fantasy points. That's kind of what I expect out of Brooks today. Small forward, you have Durant. Now he's a small forward after he was a power forward, so have fun picking between James, Leonard, and Durant if they're all in. I think Durant looks the best just based on his salary, but I think there's some better, cheaper options. This position went from being one of the worst positions last year to being like one of the most loaded positions to start the season. I like Gordon Hayward a lot at 78. I like Kyle Anderson. You can look to Keldon Johnson at 58. He'll look to like Hardaway if Richardson is out. Tyler Hero is still sitting at 4,500. If even if Butler's in, he would be appealing. If Butler's out, that would be tough to kind of get away from. And then you have the two Hawks guys, Hunter and Reddish. One of them would be appealing if Gallo is out again. But I'm going with Hayward at 78. I just like the way he's looked so far in a Charlotte uniform. Just with the usage, getting the ball in his hands a lot. And he's been making some plays, so he looks like a solid option at small forward. Moving on to power forward, there's a lot to discuss here because you have Giannis and Davis and Tatum as the expensive guys. Then the 6K range, it's pretty loaded too. You have Collins, Aldridge, and Washington. And Collins is 68. That's like super cheap for Fanduel purposes. Or Aldridge is 65. That's really cheap as well. Washington's been playing the best out of the three, and he's 64. I feel like people still will go with Collins and Aldridge just because of their pedigree, but I think Washington looks a little bit better just with the minutes that he's going to get. Covington at 52, he's in play, as is Clark at 46. So right now, I think you could look to Tatum at 92 as a spend-up option, or you can go to Washington, who I like at 64. And then looking at center, it's Valanciunas at 75, looks to be a really good option. Also like Nurkic a lot at 67. He's been losing some minutes with Enes Kanter's been playing well, but still like the upside Nurkic presents. Kanter is 48, so he's like priced up enough that you don't have to really consider him. Biyombo's priced at 46, so he's kind of. I'd rather go with Washington and Hayward on the Hornet side. I do think Thompson will rest today, and if that does happen, you get $3,900 Daniel Tice. So keep an eye on if Thompson happens to play, then I will not play Tice at 39, but I expect Thompson to be out, which would make Tice like one of the better value plays at center, like the best value play. And that pretty much does it for the video. It's a pretty long one, but hopefully you guys got some value out of it. Thank you for watching, and best of luck.